Welcome to the Café Duvet. May I have a name for your order? Well, yes, I'm Joshua of Milestone Play. I am a professional game master, and welcome to Monster Week. Monster Week is a collaborative TTRPG event organized by Ginny D and Pointyat to explore a new monstrous topic every year. And this year's topic is the Fae. The whimsical, the mischievous, the merrymaking, and by the gods, do my players hate them. Well, not all my players. In my experience running for a bunch of different tables, a bunch of different groups, about 10% of players absolutely love the Fae. They love just buying into whatever weird conceit is going on. When it comes to the Fae, you kind of put the rules of D&D aside and you just accept that we're going by the seat of our pants. Words have power, promises have power, implied promises have power. If you accept a little bit of food, you are indebted to whatever Fae gave you that food or even made it available for you to stumble upon. And some players love this mischief, love this wackiness, and others don't. About 80% of the players that I play with want nothing to do with the Fae. If I provide a small little Fae plot hook, just this little side thing, something to flesh out the session, flesh out the area, just have a little bit of levity in what is otherwise, for me, a very down-to-earth game, they don't want to do anything. They don't want to talk. They don't want to take anything. They don't want to interact in any way. They see it as getting in the way. They see it as this is just going to be a problem that's going to delay us for 2.5 sessions. Like, this isn't the goal. We just need to move on. Don't talk, don't say anything, don't do anything. And I think that's a shame. I think a lot of players have had bad experiences with the Fae. They have had overly antagonistic game masters that have used the loose rules of Faedom to just hand wave doing whatever they want. And because of that, a lot of players don't enjoy interacting with it. Which is why I came up with the Café Duvet. The Café Duvet is my attempt to create a safe place for players to get to have the frivolity and the fun of interacting with the Fae without having any form of super long-lasting consequences, and it also lets me lighten up a bit and play into some of those more whimsical desires in an otherwise serious game. So we're going to go through the Café Duvet's items for purchase, as well as how I interact with the players giving out these items. The first thing you need to do is figure out how willing your players are to interact with the Fae and to have a little bit of nonsense occur. Now, if you have players like the bulk that I've played with, you may just want to give them the menu for the Café Duvet. You can get it linked down in the description for free on my Patreon. If they're a bit more willing to go into a little bit of nonsense, do not give them the menu. As you may have already seen, the menu is full of pun-based items where you don't actually know what you're getting, despite thinking you know what you're getting. And so rather than giving players that are more willing to bite the hook the menu, you can have the barista simply talk them through some of the options, being vague on the details and more just accentuating the item by name. Now, the individual that I have run the Café Duvet is a Fae named Chaz. Chaz is a centaur-like, Grig-like Fae, where the top half of his body is a bear, the bottom half is a scorpion, and he's got these magical moving tattoos that go all over him. He is a bit of a hipster. Pause for pun of him having a centaur-like hip. Anyways, Chaz runs the Café Duvet a little bit more like a New York bodega or deli, and I tend to try to roleplay him with a thicker kind of New York accent. You can go generic New York, you can go a bit more Brooklyn, Bronx, whatever you are capable of doing. If you want, you can go a little bit more ethnic, depending on just what vibes you want to pull in to Chaz. But having an accent is key, because some of the names of the items are easier to slip by your players if you have a bit of an accent. Now, you don't want to hide it. If your players hear something, go with it. Once again, we don't want to be cruel to our players. This is why we have this in levels of how much you are buying in to the tricksiness. You could just give them the names and they go, ha, I want to buy this item. Or you could have this entire interaction. So we're going to go through these items a little bit as if I were Chaz with the pronunciations and then talk about what they all do. So we're going to start off with the drinks that the Café Duvet has, and any good cafe, you should be able to get a coffee. Now, coffees are thick, dark drinks that taste of brown sugar and dirt. It is served black like the soil from which it's made. After all, you can't make coffee without grounds. Upon drinking, the imbiber gains a mild-mannered cough for the next 8 hours. This cough gives advantage on persuasion checks when addressing a group of people, as it is easier to gain the group's attention without rudely interrupting. However, the imbiber must also make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. On a failure, the cough is more severe and gives disadvantage on stealth checks as the cough draws attention. Right. So that is the base level pun that the rest of these drinks are based off of, and other such eccentricities of what they actually do. Let's get into the more intricate things. So you want a latte? We got plenty of lattes. Now, these drinks do pack a bigger kick than expected and don't really follow food safety guidelines. Drinking the beverage is downright painful and even deadly for the wrong person. However, that same kick lingers on and fills your chest and stomach, providing additional aid. You can get yourself a chai latte, my personal favorite. When drunk, the spice and heat of the drink causes 1d10 fire damage to the drinker. However, the heat remains, providing resistance to cold damage for an hour. If that's not your style, you can go for the iced mint mocha latte. When drunk, the cool mint and super chilled liquid causes 1d10 cold damage to the drinker. However, the cooling effect remains, providing resistance to fire damage for 1 hour. Finally, we've got the creme of the creme, the crop of the crop, the pumpkin spice latte. When drunk, the drinker receives 1d10 psychic damage, but also gains immunity to acid and poison damage for 1 hour because the drink is so bloody basic. Additionally, during this time, the drinker must re-roll any die whose number face is not odd because, and as they say, they can't even right now. Okay, so that's the core of the drinks available at the Café Duvet, and you can take them to go. They're essentially potions that you can sell at a cheaper price from this consumable shop, with a little bit of the drawbacks of that damage, and then the pumpkin spice latte kinda doing its own thing. However, there is one drink that you cannot take to go. You have to drink it in the Café Duvet, because it's based on espresso. Espresso gets horribly bitter if you don't drink it quickly. In this case, we got your espresso. Yes, we are mispronouncing it as most people do, and it's express go, but you say it fast, they may not notice. Chances are they'll notice. That's what caught me up on when I was running this, but it's fine. This small shot of black liquid tastes of oil and not the olive kind. Upon drinking, the imbiber gains the ability to dash as a bonus action for 1 hour. Additionally, once during that hour, they may take an additional action on their turn, like an action surge. Drinking another coffee or latte that you took to go before the hour ends earns you another hour of Express Go. For every hour this is extended, though, the drinker gains 1 level of exhaustion at the end. At some point, you're going to have that caffeine crash. I started with something that I attempted was a New York accent, and I ended up here. That tends to be how these accent things goes for me. It's not my forte. Those are the drinks available at the Café Duvet, but we do have plenty of other merchandise as any good cafe should have. Let's go into the merchandise, and we will start off with the bagels. This large paper bag jostles and squawks. As a bonus action, you may pull out the bag and release a swarm of seagulls using the stats of a swarm of ravens. The swarm of seagulls acts immediately after your turn in combat. Their actions must be in hostility and cannot be complex, such as like, oh yeah, go steal these keys and bring them. Nah, they're seagulls. They're not gonna listen that much. They're just bundled up balls of wrath that you can release on your enemies. After 1 minute, the swarm will disband and scatter away because they are not loyal to anyone, they're seagulls. Now, there is a 50% chance each long rest you take that the swarm escapes the bag and wreaks havoc, presumably upon you if you are the closest creature to it. Hey, you're the one walking around with a bunch of seagulls in the bag. The next item available at the Café Duvet are brownies. Well, if the bagels were actually a bag of birds, the brownies, well, they're just brownies. Just a different definition of brownies. Brownies are a type of small fey creature like a sprite, but they don't have wings. If you have watched Willow, yes, this is exactly what you're getting if you buy brownies. You hire a troop of 4 brownies to accompany you until they get bored. The brownies leave after 1 hour without an encounter, whether that's combat, negotiation, or a puzzle. Alternatively, you may make a DC 15 performance, musical instrument, gaming check to get them to stay another hour. Brownies have the stats of sprites without a flying speed. So, right up, you can just hire some fae to go with you at the Café Duvet, but they're not going to stay with you for long. You have to continue to be doing things. If you stop for a short rest, you have to entertain them. It's up to your game master, or you if you're the game master, whether or not you have to entertain them, which means you can't take the short rest, or if that happens with the short rest. It's up to you. Just chances are you're not going to be taking a long rest and trying to entertain them for 8 hours. They're gonna leave at some point. It's gonna happen. Next, we go on to the cappuccinos. Wait, I hear you cry. Didn't we move on from the drinks? Yes, we did. And while you are listing out these items as Chaz, you may want to include the cappuccinos with the drinks just to add into that bit of confusion. However, the cappuccinos are anything but a drink. They're actually 3 things, 4 things, 2 things. It depends how you count. Let's get into it. This brown turban disassembles into 3 pairs of pants. Once disassembled, it requires a DC-10 Intelligence Weaver's Tools check to reassemble the cappuccinos. I don't know if that's my favorite pun of the entire menu or my least favorite, but it's there. Tends to be how most of these things go. The next item at the Café Duvet are mugs. This is my mug. You cannot have it. I only made one. Now, the mugs are the most innocent version of an item at the Café Duvet until you try to use them. The typical way of using a mug is raising it to your face and stuff like that. And now, these mugs are a bit special. They're not branded. They're all independent. They're all jovial. They're all whimsical. They all have a face on them. These novelty mugs come with large, expressive faces using an ear, a nose, or a bent glasses arm as a handle. When raised to your face to drink, the mug's top expands out to wrap around your face. You know, like in The Mask with Jim Carrey, causing no trauma whatsoever to children. Your ugly mug is now the same as the one you purchased. The mug remains attached to your face until you are punched in the face. The mug then shatters. We have gone from the most innocent item that looks like what you're purchasing to horror. But some of your players will purchase them. They may even purchase a collection to have anything you describe as a face on a mug as a possible alter ego. Now, it's important to note that this is just the face. This is not an alter self on the entire body. You are simply replacing your face with the ugly mug on the mug. Our penultimate item are t-shirts. And you probably already see where this is going as you've been following along with what's going on. This mesh shirt is padded with dead leaves for warmth. When the shirt starts around in water, the shirt casts the spell Fog Cloud centered on it. The fog cloud's radius cannot extend beyond the surface of the water. The t-shirt has 10 charges and ceases to be magical after the last charge is used. If you've ever wanted to be an octopus creating an ink cloud around you, well, now you can do it with tea, whatever your preferred blend is. The final piece of merchandise to purchase at the Café Duvet are tumblers. And yeah, these are also hirelings. This is a tumbler. This is an acrobat. You hire a Fey acrobat for the next 8 hours. The acrobat grants advantage on checks made to balance, climb, jump, land, roll, and swing, as well as tumble through enemy spaces in combat. Now, I have phrased that in a particular way to focus on the tasks you're doing, as opposed to athletics or acrobatics as the mechanical check you're making. Different game masters run those different activities with different checks. Some of them don't care which you use. Some of them are very particular. I, myself, am very particular. I am building up a defense against my own way of running the game. So if you think you're going to be doing some third story work, or if you're going to be going through some tangled jungle environment or something, having a tumbler around to aid you on your journey could be beneficial. It's up to your game master, or you if you're the game master, whether that tumbler is only for one person, or if they take enough time, that tumbler can help everyone one by one through whatever encounter they're dealing with. So those are the items at the Café Duvet. But I didn't give you any prices. And that's because this is another point of whimsy. If you want to barter however you choose to barter with Faye, go for it. However, if you're using Chaz, the way Chaz does it is like any modern day bodega, deli, any modern day store, you just get the option. You want to pay with cash or card. Now, this is a point where having a thick accent matters because it's supposed to sound like cash or card, but it's actually gash or carb. The players may either select cash, gash, at which point Chaz with those giant scorpion pincers will take a snip out of them rapidly. Now, it's going to do some damage. It's not meant to be a lot. Like, you're supposed to be able to purchase multiple things here, and a short rest will deal with it immediately. I don't recommend doing more than 10% per item, 10% of a particular character's health per item. It's really just going to be, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is a lot if you're a low-level campaign. 8 is nothing if you're high-level. So do what feels right for just a small gash. Now, if they're paying with carb, that's up to them. Do they have bread? Do they have muffins? Do they have actual donuts? I did not include donuts as an option to buy here. Make your own. In fact, if you come up with a weird punny item you can get from a cafe, throw it in the description below. But for now, donuts are just something players can pay with to get essentially a potion of fire resistance or potion of cold resistance. Let's just hope that they didn't go to a bakery before coming here. Otherwise, they can clean out the store with a bunch of magical consumables for relatively no pay. But also, do it. It'll be hilarious if they get a dozen donuts or, I don't know, whatever has carbs. Maybe they have pita. Maybe they made a bunch of pita bread. I don't know. Have fun with it. That's what this is supposed to be. That's the Café Duvet. That is my response to players being afraid to interact with Fey in my games, and to just make it lighthearted, make the stakes low, let them trade rations and stuff for whimsical little things that, like, yeah, they're mechanically powerful in some regards, but a lot of them have drawbacks. Some of them, they'll just leave after a bit. So it's not something you as the game master have to worry about too much about, like, oh, what did I just give out? Just have fun with it. Thank you for following along with Monster Week. Go ahead and check out the different playlists that Pointy Hat and Ginny D have made for Fey-based content this year. If you're looking for a game or to get into one of my recorded sessions or anything like that, you can jump down to the description. Once again, the menu for the Café Duvet can be found for free down there on my Patreon. And then you can also jump into my Discord and hang out with me there, jump into games, all that fun stuff. And generally, have a lovely